On a video I did way back on LC200N, seen here on the Spidey Chef, I talked about how tough this steel is. And, William Smith 5429 here notes correctly that when you've got a tough steel, whether it's LC200N or something like M4 on this Gale Bradley here, one of the great things about a tough steel is that you can make that edge a little bit thinner without worrying quite as much about that edge chipping, or really those sort of catastrophic edge deformities, because a tougher steel is more likely to deform, or in some cases not deform at all, whereas some other steels might fail catastrophically, meaning, snap, break, whatever. And when you're talking about functional edge retention, Big Brown Bear, the guy behind 15V, did a really good video on this. When you're talking about edge retention, blade geometry, especially that edge geometry, has as much to do with how sharp the knife feels and how well it retains its edge as the actual steel that you're using. In fact, Laren Thomas did a video on this specifically not too long ago, where if you take a steel that is sort of a less edge retentive steel, and then you put a really fine edge on it, in a lot of cutting tests, it will outcut a knife that is, like your Maxmet, your Rex 121, even some of your higher edge retention steels with a fatter edge. So the fact is, with some tougher steels, if it lets you get very nice and thin behind the edge, you can get, like the Spidey Chef gets, nice and thin behind the edge here because you've got thin stock and a full flat grind. That lets you have a knife that functionally will hold an edge for a pretty good time and cut for a pretty good time. It might not keep that super keen leading edge for as long as it would if it had a more edge retentive steel, but it will still cut for a pretty good long time because that edge geometry is still very good. And then when you get a steel like M4 that is both tough and edge retentive and is ground in a way that it's thin behind the edge, well, then you can have an edge that holds for a really nice long time, like you get here on the Gale Bradley. So yes, toughness does make a difference in how long your knife will cut and feel like it cuts well, because if you've got somebody who knows what they're doing, they're going to be able to leverage that tougher steel to give you a little bit better edge geometry without worrying about breaking that edge. Very good point from William Smith 5429 here.